That is it. I have made up my mind. I hate you. You, this wrinkly, old, get off my screen. Why are you here? What are you doing? What is your Well, we know your purpose. We know you just kind of want to take an L and get erased. But really? You're going to sit here and manipulate the situation into your favor to get the maximum potential of your erasure? Come on now. Come on now. We know you're better than this. Oh, well. Probably not, but we know Denji's better than this. We know Chainsawman is better than this, and that's exactly what we get to see. So honestly, respect to our fallen soldier, to our boy, Denji as Chainsawman. There was a moment there where I was concerned that Pochita would, in fact, eat the different body parts of the aging devil, and thus a bunch of children would get obliterated. Very gruesome. But our boy has pulled through. In the worst way too. Because he's not in any position to negotiate. He's not in no shape to decline this offer. Eating the aging devil would resurrect him and thus he'd be able to fight. But clearly, very clearly, that's not the case here. He does not want to fight. He's kind of just vibing at the moment. I find that to be very peculiar. I mean, I've talked about Pochita before. I've talked about his full armor transformation. I've talked briefly about how potentially he operates. We don't have the answers. That's the thing. We know at some points he can be animalistic and other times clearly rather intelligent. He knows what he's doing. He's a little bit humorous. He's a little bit quirky of a fella. And right here is the best kind of portrayal of it. In the time of desperation and honestly to the point of just a healing, he chooses not to. This is someone that has no moral obligation to uphold, someone that does not care about human life, and yet, why does it come off like he does? And that's kind of the big question mark here, right? What is Pochita doing? What is he thinking? Still waving around the blood sign like someone's gonna come across and give him a free sample? In the midst of all of this buffoonery, the aging devil standing over top of him, primal fear, by the way, very, very powerful, still getting shot and obliterated by war and the guns and everything in between. Who does he expect to come and save him? Clearly there's thought, but not a long one. That's okay. At least he's sticking true to himself, and I can respect that. Makes for an interesting conversation on where his mind kind of juts towards and what he focuses on and what he puts to the side. I like to think that perhaps he just doesn't see any of this as a threat. Originally, that's what we thought. What indicated a response from Pochita was whether or not someone he deemed to be a threat, or at least an annoyance. And the value of that would change rapidly, on a dime even. But so far, no one has called for help, which was a big kind of bat symbol for him in part 1, the reason why he went to Gobeni to begin with. And yet he killed people in the store, the ones that were making fun of and harassing Gobeni. Honestly, you can take that train of thought very, very far, past many, many stations. I don't know how deep you want to get into that, but it is something to think about. Something that I constantly rekindle pretty much every single week. Every time we see Pochita, full armor Chainsawman, that's where my mind goes. How does this boy think? And clearly, I never get the answers that I want, but that's okay. I'm in for the ride. I like it. There's a tiny moment in here where I find the response from Aging Devil to be kind of funny. They are very confused. Don't really know what Pochita is thinking when all of this quote-unquote free food, free healing is laid out on the table. Pochita's not choosing to eat. This has Aging confused. What are you doing? What's going on? Is your head empty? I really like the sub-intellectual approach that the Aging Devil has. This is someone that is communicating and making deals and contracts with human beings. They clearly understand their own value, their worth to humans, and what they uphold. So you take that intelligence, apply that to their perspective on the world and devils in general, being, a primal fear, one of the more powerful devils. What do you think they see when they look at Pochita? Like utter confusion, annoyance, baffled that this dog isn't doing what he's told, isn't taking up a free offer, a free meal. I'm surprised that we're seeing more of Aging. The end half of this chapter tails in a much bigger direction in terms of a fight. I wasn't expecting that. In the back of my mind, I was hoping for more of Aging because I like the idea, I like the concept, I like the difficulty that surrounds the nature of even erasing Aging. That's just problematic. Why? What? So now that we're trailing into a much larger direction, a much more interesting, high-scaled, high-octane direction, I'm locked in. I'm getting more from a character that I didn't think I was going to get more of. I was prepared mentally for them to just get annihilated, erased from existence. And yet, here we are. The true meat and potatoes of this chapter is a conversation between Asa and War. Now, conversation is putting it lightly. This is more of a mental battle. So imagine this, two personalities, two minds, almost complete opposites of each other, two entirely different experiences. One of them's clearly human and very much within her own head, and the other one is just a warmongering, psychotic individual. You clash those two beings together sharing one body, who do you think wins? Clearly the answer is War, that's easy. Not as much as you think. This would be underestimating and undervaluing what Asa is capable of, but we also don't know semantics. We don't know specifics, and that is the crucial key word here. Realistically, War would come out on top 9 times out of 10. Personality-wise, strength-wise, history-wise, the experience, what she is much more powerful and indicative to take control of the situation, to force herself back into the body, yet Asa continues to sneak in, forcing her way back into her own body. She knows it best, right? So you have a bit of a conflict between them, and I love this. This is a really, really great moment to bring even more characterization on top of Asa and War. What's funny though is that it's heavy leaning towards War, because we have so much of Asa already. We know technically where she stands. We know how she thinks about the situation. We know how she feels towards Denji. The thing is that it's unstable. She doesn't know the right answers. She doesn't know what to do. So she's kind of following carefully, closely within the footsteps of War. And War is running. She's taken off and really in the face of Pogita right now, doing everything to kill him. And this is a personal vendetta. This is a grudge that she has. So clearly she's in the mix. She's in it for the game. As much as Asa tries to pierce into this, I don't want to say fragile facade that War has, but definitely a fragile ego, a fragile personality that has strong roots in certain directions, but the overall shielding or casing for it can be penetrated. This here, the conversation between them, the back and forth, the trying to understand the ego of War is really fleshed out. You have a ton of backing for it already. There's a reason why we got to see them in the bathtub communicating. There's a reason why we've seen so much more of War being humanized and not just treated as a calamity of war. Of course, she's a devil. We know this. Asa forgot about that, but it's because Asa forgot is why it's so important to recognize. The conversations between Asa and War that they have had after this point have been nothing but human, nothing but genuine connection, nothing but trying to understand. It's not constantly that, but the emotions that you have seen from War have been anything but what you would think War would represent. The ego, the motherhood, the sacrifice of her children. You see tiny bits and pieces of it come out to play, and yet it's reinforced by War. It's reinforced by the scary nature of her being a devil. That's such a beautiful structure to have. It's like having a gooey center and a concrete husk surrounding it with a lot of cracks in there. So to our surprise, you get a bit of a flip. Asa is trying to take her body back. She, for once, is standing up for what she wants. This doesn't happen often. She recognizes that what stands in front of her is a devil, and she's starting to remember that. That's the important thing. For a long time, she kind of just treated War like a sister, like a friend, like someone that's just sharing the body with her, not one of the most powerful devils to exist that embodies the literal components of War itself, hell on earth. Unfortunately, because of her remembering it, you get the consequences as well. She starts to fear her. Now this, perhaps, might have revealed a lot more than you think. We didn't really know how they switched bodies, and we don't really have to know. But there is situational semantics that I would like to be clarified. War points out that the reason Asa was able to take over is because of fear. Asa seemingly knows this as well. It allows her to retake control. If I were to try and break this down into like blocks, maybe it's something to do with clarity of the mind. War can't navigate through it because the intensity of that fear. And because fear is a human component, it forcefully pushes Asa back into her body. In that case, for another block, maybe it's just human emotions in general at their heightened. And now that I think about it, every time Asa kind of forcefully takes control, or at least accidentally, it's when she's at a heightened human emotion. So that's my train of thought. Funny enough, what actually helps for me clarify it a little bit more, War completely switches. Instead of yelling and screaming and trying to demand Asa to give the body back, instead she plays guilt. She plays the reverse. She flips the script. To me, this feels like perhaps she's trying to humanize with Asa, trying to get on the same level. We know that damn well that doesn't hurt. She don't care about that. Be interesting if she did, but it's more fascinating that she's able to flip it on the dime and manipulate the situation to truly get what she wants. Asa right now must be very, very confused. One moment she's fearing for her life, for the person that's in her body and trying to overcome it. The next, she's feeling bad and guilty that she's hurt the person that's just took over her body and is considered war. So now we have an interesting situation. You're looking at a primal fear versus a horseman of the apocalypse known as war. And aging doesn't take this lightly. Remember the utter destruction that bullet caused? Aging just disintegrates it and ages it to dust. They're playing a very, very dangerous game here. Going up against a primal fear of this caliber, we're about to see power to an insane extent, and I'm more than happy that this is happening. The issue is that anything that happens to them, I'd imagine the only way that you can get rid of it is by erasing the aging devil. I don't think aging's going to stick around. There'll probably be a reason why Chainsawman fights back. Whether he's pushed into a corner or he sees Asa getting killed, maybe Asa begs for help. And that is the one trigger that we know works for Chainsawman. That would be a big way to go.